Hi, I'm Danielle Premo. You're watching Premo Cooks. Today I'm going to show you one of my favorite things to make in the kitchen, which is a vegetable soup stock. So what I do on a regular basis when I'm cooking, I'm saving onion peels, carrots, celery. I'll tell all of you this later. And then I freeze those things, and once I have a gallon-sized freezer bag full, I dump it into a stock pot and then fill it with water, with an inch or two of water above the vegetables. And then we're going to bring it to a boil and simmer it, and then we have homemade soup stock after an hour and a half. So what I'm going to do is add in my frozen vegetable pieces that I've been saving. I have mushrooms, onions, carrots, celery. And then I also have some leek tops that I saved, the dark green parts that you normally don't use while cooking. Awkward. I'm going to press this down. I'm also, when you're at home and if you have all these frozen parts saved up and you're ready to make your stock, you can go through your refrigerator and look and see if you have any vegetables that maybe need to be used up that you don't want to cook with that you could toss in here for flavor. And so I have this is fresh parsley from our garden. We had a lot of extra parsley, so I trimmed a few off. Also, if you have herbs at home, maybe that have been in your refrigerator and they get sad and wilty, you could take those and toss them into your soup stock pot. And I'm going to talk all about this later after the stock is done. We have celery. They're kind of floppy, and I had some extra, and you can leave the leaves on. I have this half of an onion that was in the fridge that I hadn't used, and it's starting to dry out. I have a carrot that's a little floppy. It's still edible, but I'm just going to break this up and put this into my stock. Also going to break up these celery. And whenever I cook with mushrooms, I always take the stems out, and I put those in my soup stock bag. They add a nice, rich, deep flavor. So I'm going to toss all of this into my stock pot along with my frozen vegetable parts. And now what we want to do is fill this with water and cover it by an inch or two, and then put it back on the stove and bring it to a boil. Okay, so now I have my vegetables. If you press them down, you'll see there's plenty of water on top. And now we're gonna bring this to a boil uncovered. You don't wanna cover it. When you're making soup stock, you're taking all the nutrient content out of the vegetables as they boil for the next 2 hours, and then the water's gonna condense, and when we're done and we strain it off, we're gonna have this very dark, beautiful, rich broth. This is gonna boil, then we'll reduce it to a simmer for an hour and a half to 2 hours. And after that, I'm gonna show you how to store it. And then I will also be giving you some extra thoughts, tips, and tricks on how to go about making soup stock, what vegetables to use, and what not to use. Okay, now our soup stock has done its boiling business, and it is now gone down by a couple of inches. We have a really deep, rich, thick broth now. So what I'm going to do is take this over to the sink. We're going to strain the liquid off and then pour that into jars. We're going to leave an inch of space at the top of those jars because I'm going to freeze them and we don't want it to expand in the freezer. And then I'm going to pop a label on them and wait for it to cool down completely before freezing. Hot. How hot. Ta-da! Bam! All right, now that our soup stock is done, I would like to share with you some commonly asked questions that I get from students in cooking classes. The first one would be, why make soup stock from scratch at home? And there's lots of reasons for that. It saves some money, and you can reuse produce that you would normally compost or throw away, so it feels good to repurpose those things. And two, then you have control over the ingredients that go into it, and you can avoid added preservatives, sugars, extra salt, and the best part is that it's much more flavorful and aromatic. So I really enjoyed the smell of it and the taste of it more so than store-bought soup stock. Let's see, another question that folks ask. In this video, I showed you how to do soup stock with frozen vegetables. So frozen versus fresh, what's better, or is there a difference? I think that they taste the same in the end after you boil them, And it makes more sense to freeze vegetables as you're cooking throughout the week and save those until you have a gallon-sized bag ready to cook with, rather than giving up fresh pieces of produce to stick into a stock pot. So I prefer to save little odds and ends as I go along. I don't think that there's much of a difference between frozen versus fresh. Another question is what vegetables are best to use, and I showed you my favorite ones today, which are fresh herbs, onions, mushrooms, carrots, celery. Also, anything else in the allium family, leeks, garlic, shallots, those are all really great, really flavorful. Even the peels are flavorful for onions and garlic and shallots. So save those, stick them in your soup stock bag. The things that you don't want to use are things in the cruciferous family, which are cabbage, broccoli, dark leafy greens, kale. All of those things end up turning out to be very bitter in the end, and it really alters the flavor profile of your stock. So I avoid those things. Those can go into your compost. And then potatoes, if you put too many potato peels or whole potatoes into your soup stock, after those keep boiling for a while, they end up getting gooey and it'll make the texture undesirable. One more question I had on there that I was thinking. Oh, why freeze your soup stock as opposed to just stick it in the refrigerator? You can put it in the refrigerator if you're going to use it right away. But for this particular recipe, how I make stock is without salt, and salt acts as a preservative. And the reason I like to stick it into the freezer is because I don't always want to use it right away. And then I'm going to have a couple quart jars of fresh made stock in the freezer that I can defrost at any time. And the reason I don't add salt to mine to preserve it and have it last longer in the fridge is then once you dump it into a pot and you're making soup with it, the liquid starts to boil off and then the salt condenses and you could end up having a really salty sauce or soup. So I play it safe and I keep my stock unsalted and then I salt it as I'm cooking with it. And that's something, when you make this stock, it's going to smell so amazing and so good, and then you'll taste it and you think that it's bland, but if you take a spoonful, put a pinch of salt on it, and then taste it, all those flavor profiles are going to come out. So those are my most commonly asked questions, and I hope that in this video you now feel confident to try this at home because you won't regret it. It smells amazing, and then you'll always have fresh stock on hand in your freezer.
Good job, babe.
Shanked. Do you want to say there? Oh, her breath is freaking terrible. Holy moly.